Hello, and welcome back to another Pickled Unscripted. I have with me, as always, the incredible, the talented Matt the Pickled Dragon, and I am Dracoya. Matt, what are you drinking today?
Old Trusty.
Old Trusty.
Yes.
I mean, that's not a bad, that's not a bad choice.
It's excellent. That's why it's Old Trusty.
Yeah. Well, I've got a nice glass of Chardonnay. It is 18 degrees outside. I probably shouldn't be drinking Chardonnay because you're supposed to drink it when it's warm, but I'm a rule breaker.
That's all right. It's all right. Rules were meant to be broken.
Yeah, it's been a day, guys. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
So, we have a fun adventure for you today.
Yeah. So we were asked to review Rob Kuntz's new adventure that he wrote for Arnicon, the Dave Arneson tribute convention. Um, and it's cool. It's good. I like it. Review over. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna go through a few things, but it will be largely spoiler free, although we're gonna hit the higher points, right? Uh,
But so this is going to be a video that is focused on more review than a walkthrough. However, I know that more than one of you have said that you love our walkthrough videos. So if you want to see a walkthrough of Rob Kuntz's adventure, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if we get, what do we want to do, like 80, 85 likes?
sure.
Yeah, 85 likes. If we hit 85 likes, we will do a walkthrough of his adventure.
Of Rob's adventure. Yes. Yeah.
And thank you, Rob, for giving it to us and entrusting us with your adventure. We had a great time reading it.
Yeah. And again, it's good. It's solid. Um,
It
but I
inspired me to want to go back and actually DM again. And some of our adventures have been doing that, like, I miss D&D. But this one, I actually reached out to my friends and was like, no, this weekend we're getting a group together.
getting the band back together.
Yeah, the band's getting back together.
You know, um, the great thing about this adventure is that there is quite a bit of time devoted just to a tribute to Dave Arneson, which I don't think he gets quite as much fanfare and credit as much as like Gary Gygax. But Dave Arneson is the guy that kicked off the fantasy RPG genre. Now Gary was the one that put the rules in print form and marketed it, got it to the masses. But Dave was the idea guy, you know.
There's
Uh,
always an idea guy and a business guy.
yeah, and and Dave, or rather Rob, spends quite a bit of time just talking about Dave Arneson and singing his praises, and I think that it's well deserved. It's a tearjerker at the beginning there, and at the end it concludes with listing all of the players from Dave's Blackmoor campaign.
I know.
Yeah. And you got to remember the Blackmoor campaign, that's the very first RPG setting ever. Predates everything. And so like, the characters and players from that group, they were the originators, the first guy to ever play a wizard, or first guy to ever play a fighter, like in an RPG. Um, so it's pretty cool. I have said in several videos in the past that the reason I care so much about what goes on in this game and the future of the game is because I have so much kind of, I don't know, reverence or respect for its past. And so this is like something that's right up my alley. But yeah, so why don't we, like we are so apt to do, share a few shots here. We'll just kind of talk as we go. The pictures are handouts, the cover of the book, a few other interior art without giving away too much. I don't know if a player is going to catch this, that I don't want like a players to get the inside scoop. So here we go. Let's do this thing. Let's see. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, there it is. The cover. We all have our fancy handy copies.
We
Um,
do.
and the first thing that people always take a look at is the art. There is kind of a callback to the earliest days of TSR here with not the most detailed art, but it's got a style of its own. My wife said, "Hey, that big monster reminds me of Where the Wild Things Are," which, all right, I can get behind that.
Yeah, I could definitely get behind that. That's funny.
Um, but I if I had a critique, I understand that Rob probably has a friend artist or whatever he really wanted to give him a chance. But if I had a critique, sadly, the cover typically sells the adventure. And so, if I were to make one change about this whole thing front to cut back, it would just be the cover art, and that would be it. I'd leave everything else alone.
Would there be a different cover art that's included in the book? Would there be a different art piece that's included in the book that you would have rather had seen as the cover?
No, not necessarily. No.
Just
Um,
something entirely different.
yeah, I would have gone. I love that they put the my favorite monster from the adventure on the cover, the Beast of Coot. But yeah, I mean, I would have tried to get a better piece of art for the cover. But that is it's nitpicky in that it shouldn't matter, but the truth of the matter is the cover art often sells.
Well, I agree. You were all taught not to judge a book by its cover, but what do we do? That's literally what we're doing,
Yes.
guys. But I don't know. I liked the art. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with what you say. I think that yeah, there could have been some other choices that maybe they could have been better. But I do respect Rob and how a lot of this book is really just a hat off, his hat off to some of the earlier creators.
Yes, it is definitely especially the interior art, very reminiscent of the stuff that you would have seen, in 1978, you know. So, um, now I wanted to read this little bit here that Rob included in the beginning of the adventure. Because I think it's kind of cool. Again, it goes to my love of the legacy of the game, right? So he wrote, the adventure is an offshoot of a storyline written by Dave Arneson and set in Blackmoor. A portion of the information contained herein has been derived from Dave's Blackmoor campaign for the express purpose of continuing a legendary storyline he composed concerning Marfelt the Barbarian. Just as important was the need to recognize Pete Gaylord's Wizard of the Wood character, and out of respect for the first Wizard of RPGs, I would have written all RPGs. I was eager to include him in the story's plot. So again, this is right. I mean, like I read that and I was like, I'm hooked. I'm in, and the rest didn't disappoint. So he continues on. In this adventure, you'll discover venerable histories, which I have adapted as part of a legendary saga of Blackmoor, the first fantasy RPG campaign, which I find cool. I think it's
It is
beyond
pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few handouts in the book. It, in some ways, there are elements of this adventure that kind of remind me of the third party publishers that came out of third edition.
Mm-hmm.
And then very much so the first edition days of D&D. Now, the other thing too to point out is that this adventure is very much so like a first edition or OSR adventure. It's meant for 8 characters for levels 10 to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And he writes that it can be set in Blackmoor, Greyhawk, or any homebrew world that you want to just drop it in. You just have to change a few names.
Well, so that's actually what I really liked about this adventure is that a lot of the other adventures that we've looked at, read, reviewed, they're very specific and they're very well thought out, which can be really great because then the DM doesn't have to work as hard. Or simultaneously, if you're like me that doesn't have a lot of time to read and, improv is my number one tool in my tool belt, this adventure is really great because it leaves a lot of things open. It has a lot of openness to it. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can embed this into the adventure. In fact, Matt and I were just talking about this. That, no matter what your campaign is, I think this would be an easy way to embed it in. And one of the things that I like, without saying what it is I like how he starts it. And he's created a way for you to put it in the campaign, whatever that may be, really easily. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be just a side trek. Your party is traveling through a kingdom that is torn by strife and rebellion, and you get sucked into it, or you could make it part of your campaign as a whole, whatever you want to do. It's really great. Um, and again, avoiding spoilers, but I think this bit, since this is meant to be delivered to the players at the very beginning of the adventure, I don't have really a problem with it. So a quick summary of the adventure. Groups of nobles have gathered the heroes to assist in their efforts to squash a rebellion in the Duchy of Belgrin, or Bulgrin, sorry, Bulgrin, not Belgrin. Uh, and what these nobles are afraid of is that this revolt, this rebellion is going to spill off into neighboring kingdoms. So they've gathered the heroes and they say, your quests, should you choose to accept, you know, the whole Mission Impossible thing, is to travel to the quote unquote dark realm and revive the memories of the deceased wizard of the wood. From that knowledge, you should find the location of Marfelt the barbarian most wicked, is wanted for sacking the Duchy of Bulgrin and slaying the Duke. However, Marfelt is not to be killed, as he stole the Duke's last will and testament, which is the reason the duchy has descended into chaos, as all these different relatives are vying for the throne of the duchy. They all want to be the next duke. And with the will missing, they don't know who the heir was because the duke himself has no heir. So you must capture this ne'er-do-well barbarian and get him to relinquish the will. However, getting there is an interesting ride, to say the very least. I mean, this sounds very simple, but there's quite
Yep.
a lot here. There's a lot of meat on that bone, as they say.
Hmm.
So, yeah. Um, so, in order to assist the party, they're handed a whole bunch of items and maps. And one of the things I always love, especially like if you look at like Tomb of Horrors, it's just loaded with player handouts. Really,
Handouts.
yeah, I
Man,
love player
visual
handouts.
aids. Visual aids make everything better.
Yes. So this particular map isn't necessarily a play handbook, but I want to just share it because it's one of the things I do like about this adventure is that the maps are very, very pretty. I like the maps a lot. But when we start getting into the handouts, here we go. They start describing the paths you must take in order to A, find the tomb of the Wizard of the Wood, and kind of spark his memory because he's been dead a long time. So one of the things they say is that, there's a guy, the root man. He has a special root that can awaken the wizard, but the wizard, having been dead so long, won't necessarily remember anything. So you've got to like massage, the Wizard of the Wood. And that's not meant to be creepy at all. But you massage the Wizard of the Wood and you get him to, open up and remember bygone days. So they give you this list of questions. Um, and these are all things that the Wizard of the Wood, the actual player, did in Dave Arneson's campaign. So you're supposed to ask him all these questions, right? And the answers are provided in the adventure, but no spoilers. And so it's kind of a cool historic walkthrough of D&D lore here, right? I think this is beyond cool because it's like, the very first campaign ever, and these are like actual events from that campaign. And
Lots of Easter eggs in this
yeah,
entire
it's
adventure.
fantastic. It's fantastic. Handouts galore. So more maps that the party's handed out, with,
Can I say something that I really appreciated, talking about the maps and what I appreciate is that a lot of campaigns and adventures, they describe the area without really describing the area, and it's left up to you as the DM to figure out a way to emphasize these traits and qualities of the surroundings to your players. Rob, thank you, because there's one paragraph that I would really like to read, and it's a great example of how I like that. I love how it was written. This place is a dry and disturbingly calm. Its stillness builds in one's mind like an omnipresent motif which threatens to kill the senses the more one partakes of it. There is no movement of air, no presence of life. Its repetitive terrain is a bleak and featureless space painted with different shades of gray and black. And if it wasn't for the luminous road's presence, any sane being would think that they had entered a nightmare where all life had been sucked out of it, leaving them with only the exaggerated sounds of their beating heart. Ah! Ah!
Rob's a great writer. I mean, and we also have to remember a lot of this is written for theater of the mind. That was his wheelhouse back in the day. So the descriptions are wonderful, you know. Um, and anyone who's had much experience with the old first edition adventures knows that there's always a collection of pre-generated characters in the back of the book, and this is no different. I love it. Uh, they're all humans, which I find interesting. But in any case, I do enjoy this touch and I shouldn't really be surprised. Rob Kuntz has a bunch of pre-gens in the back there for people to just pick up and run with. So yeah, I think it's cool. I know one of the things I noticed is that all of them are quite charismatic. If you look at the charisma scores, they're all pretty high. So it's a charismatic bunch, you know. But I do love this. It's it's something that and we talked about, there's two other things that I really wanted to mention. And, we talked about the art being reminiscent of the old days, but not just that, but like there are a lot of very unique monsters in the book, which is nice because, you know, if I were to throw a troll at my party, everybody in my party, whether they're first level or 20th level, they have that institutional knowledge where they're saying, okay, we got to use fire against this guy. But
Mhm.
anytime you include unique monsters and things that you've never seen before, uh, it can throw the party for a loop, and it becomes much more of a challenge as they try to navigate that situation. So, ghouls with halitosis are a thing. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to give it away. I'm just going to say they stink. Well, no, I'm not going to give it away. So that was pretty cool.
Hit that like button.
We got this
Oh,
cute
I
lady.
really liked her. And I can't go into her character very much, but I don't know, there was, and maybe it's the helmet, but there's also the setting that she's in the book. She reminded me very much of the Scarlet Witch, which I'm a huge, huge Scarlet Witch fan. So
And she's not Frodo of the Nine Fingers either.
I thought she was pretty cool. I liked her.
And overall, I would love for you guys to give this adventure a shot. If nothing else, you need to pay a little homage to the past. I venerate the the precursors, the elders of our game, and I'm really glad that we got the chance to get a copy of this and share it with you all because I think it's great. I think it's fun.
We will include the link for this adventure in the description below if you guys want to check it out. And you know what you're going to need for your adventure? Dice. But thankfully,
dnddice.com.
we have a promo code pickled for
Yes,
dnddice.com. Promo code pickled.
support the channel, buy some dice. They do have cool dice. I particularly like their Fallout dice. They're like green see-through dice with little mushroom clouds in the middle
They're
of them,
glow in the dark. That's
and
why
they
you
glow in
like
the
them.
dark. So I really like those, but there's a number of sets that I really like of theirs.
I
So
like the retro one, the retro set where they've got like old consoles and old little gamer stuff in
yeah, like
them.
Pac-Man era little icons on them and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had fun with this one. Thanks for all for watching, but
Comment, like, subscribe, go buy dice.
and come back and have another round on us.